I'm Becca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful peacock earrings. This is the pair that I'm going to show you today, and this is just using the beads that were skewered from top to bottom in my previous video. I'll link it in the description box below so you can watch that if you've not seen it. And these are just really fun, so if you're a person who likes sort of big chunky jewellery, this is definitely one for you. And then these ones are made with the cane slicers, which I also show you in that video. And then this one's just some real fun, dropping it, really fun funky colours. So you can do them any colourway that you want to, and they're really easy to do. They do take a while because you've got to do the clay embroidery of the actual body, but once you've done that, it doesn't take too long to do the beading at all. So let's get started and I'll show you how. So first off, we need to create our peacock's body, and I've just drawn this sort of, it looks a bit more like a duck at the moment, just on a piece of paper, and I'm using this as my template. So I will draw on this and scan it in and put it for you to download if you don't feel that you can draw one out yourself and you want to do the same one as mine. But I just basically drew it round on a piece of a post-it note, and it's just a bit like an S shape, and obviously it's got a bigger belly. But if you want the same one as me, I'll put it as an attachment to the in the description box. I think that's how you do it anyway. My husband will be doing it, but so right, I've just rolled out some Windsor Blue Fimo, and this is on a number 2 on my pasta machine. You can do it on your thickest one if you want, but I've just gone one down because I'm going to be putting some beads around it. And we're going to need 2 of these shapes because I'm going to create 2 peacocks for our earrings, and I want one to be faced this way and one to be facing the other way. So that's why I like using my own template, but just using my craft knife just to cut it out, and then we can smooth it out once we've cut it round. So don't worry if it's not perfectly smooth to start off with, because we can easily smooth it out afterwards. Now I've got my clay on a piece of paper just so that it's easier for me to turn. If you've got one of those turning craft knives, which I've got but I prefer this one for working with clay, you could use that, and then that should turn rather than you needing to do the paper. But as you can see, I'm just going around the outside of it. I'll lift it up. As you can see, we've got a rough shape, and then we'll just flip it around so we know that it's going the other way, and then we'll go around the outside of it again. Now if you want them both to face the same way, that's up to you. I'm just making them so that they face in opposite directions. Now they don't take long to cut out really, but because you're making your own template, you can make them as big or as small as you want. I mean, these are, I'll finish cutting it out and I'll measure it so I can tell you how big they actually are. Because I know some people like like the really big chunky jewellery, and some don't. So if you feel that you can make it any smaller than this, then you try and see if you can get it to the size that you want. There we go. So lift it up like that. So yeah, that's, so I'm going off camera now, I'm just measuring. It's about 1 inch wide and it's about 1 3/4 tall, so 1 3/4 inches that way and then 1 inch that way. So it's not very big, it's up to you whether if you want to do them that size. So I'll just put that away, and then I'm just going to pull away the excess. Okay, as you can see, they're not perfect, they're not totally smooth. They don't need to be because we're going to smooth all those out. So we've got our 2 shapes, and then I'm just going to take my acrylic block, so a little bit, and I'm going to just place them so that they're facing each other. Now this is so that when we're putting our clay pieces on, we can get them matched up so that they the colour changes are at the same sort of point. So if you want to put them fairly close to each other. I mean, you may feel better to do them separately, but you know, it's up to you. This is just whether I'm wanting to show you. So, and then the other thing that you might need is just some of these clay shaping tools. If you've not got those, you know, just have a look in your toolbox, see what else you've got. Now I'm just going around the outside to start with, just smoothing it out, just to take away those rough edges. The beauty of polymer clay, it doesn't take too much for to change it into how you want it. So there we go. And then once I've gone around the outside with my finger, I'll go with the clay tools and just to refine the shape of them. Okay, so I'm just going to take my tools and just going to see the beaks. It's gone a little bit wonky, so I'm just going to push it this way. Get that one that's got the point on the end. Let's see if we can get it in a bit more. There we go. And then I'm just going to push that little bit up there so it's got more of the rounded shape of the where the beak is, and then just go around the edge with these. You can do it without these tools, but it just takes a little bit longer, and I've got them so I'm using them. But yeah, don't worry if you've not got all the tools that I've got. If you've not got acrylic block to place them on to move them around, you could just leave them on a piece of paper like I've when I was cutting them out. Okay, so you can see that's a lot more smooth than the other one, and then it's just the same going with the other one. There we go, I've got those all shaped out. Now just take your time with doing it and get them exactly how you want them, because now's the time to do it, because once you start putting all your little pieces of clay on, it's going to be a bit harder to get at them without distorting your pieces. Yep, so I've got them done now. I'm quite happy with how they are. So now we're just going to put the feathers on. But before I actually show you how I'm going to do them, I'm just going to mark out where I'm wanting one colour to finish and the next one to start. So I'm just going to around here, and I'm just going to take my needle tool and just mark out where I want the top colour to finish. And you can get it sort of relatively the same. Now it doesn't matter about you having these marks because you're going to be covering them up, so don't worry about it. It's just basically just to give you a sort of a guide as to where you want to start with one colour and finish with the other one. So again, just don't worry about it, it's just one of those things just to help you a little bit further down the road. So the next part is putting our feathers on. Clearing stuff out of the way. Now I'm using my budget clay again that I've used on my previous clay embroidery videos, and I've just got, so I'm going to take this sort of turquoisey blue colour, and that's going to be going off at the top. So and all we're going to be doing is creating some tiny little teardrops. Now you'll probably need more than you think doing these, because when I've done my tester pair of earrings, I've needed to roll out some more teardrops than I actually thought that we're going to do. So just roll out your clay into a snake, and then I'm just going to get my blade and I'm just going to cut tiny little slivers, that's what you can call it, just like this. And if you manage to get them to stick onto the blade when you're cutting the next ones, you can line it up with that just so that you get roughly the same amount of clay for each one. If you want to get exactly the same, then use a cutter and cut a shape out and then cut it into the same amount of pieces for each of them. But I'm just doing it like this. So just going to roll them into a little ball, and then I'm just going to rub it onto my mat at the side and roll one side, and it turns it into a tiny little teardrop like this. So you will, like I said, you will need quite a few of these. And then what we want to do with them, and then I'm just going to pick it up with my needle tool, and I'm going to be starting up here on the thinner bit of the neck. And I'm just going to have it so that the pointed part is facing downwards. Okay. This, do one more. And then I'm just going to take my needle tool, I'm just going to press down the centre, and then I'm going to do rows and rows of these right until I get to this bottom line. Now as the shape changes width, you'll just have to put more pieces in on a row. So this is where I say you'll probably need more than you expect for doing these, because they're only tiny bits of clay, but it's getting them to fill in a relatively larger area compared to, you know, the size of them. And then I'll just put these ones just a little bit further down. Ooh, dropped it. And go in between the gaps of the other ones, and then press them in like we've done the other ones. So I'm going to go and do rows of this until I get down to here, and then I'll show you what colour I'm going to use. Sorry, turn around. I'm going to show you what colour I'm going to use for the bottom part, and then I'll be back. Right, so I've got all the blue done down to the line that I showed you earlier, and obviously I've gone over a little bit from that one, but I've just done the same amount of rows on each of them, so they're roughly about the same, but they don't actually have to have all the same parts in it, because no two birds in nature are exactly the same. But this is what I've got done so far, and then I'm going to repeat this technique just using a pale brown for the rest of the body, just doing the exact same thing right until I get down to the bottom. So once I've done that, I'll come back and I'll show you how to do the beak and the eye. Right, so I've got all the feathers done now. So the next part is just to put the eye and the beak on. So I'm just rolling out some white clay now, and you only need a very little amount for this. So we'll just start off with that much, and this will probably do both of the eyes, to be honest, because it needs to be relatively thin. So yeah, we'll go with that one. And then we're going to roll out either end. Like when we've done the teardrops on this one, we're just doing the same on either end of this tiny little bit of clay, and then we're just going to flatten them out so it sort of makes a leaf sort of shape. Now with white, it's always terrible for picking up absolutely everything, so if you want to make sure that it stays absolutely pristine, then you'll have to just get rid of everything on your desk. But as best as you can, just try and get it so that there's you know, there's not all the tiny little flecks and things in it. But these are the things that happen to us crafters. But we just deal with them as best we can. So I'm just going to take this little bit now, and right, so that's probably a little bit too big actually. So as you can see, the head's rather small, but we'll see. Oh, I'm dropping it. But we'll see. Yeah, let's just thin that one down just a bit. You want to make sure that it's you know, proportionate to the actual bird. You don't want it to look silly. Right, so press it down again. That looks a bit more like. Okay. And oh, where's that bit come from? Put you over there. Yeah, that's more like it. And I'm just going to pop it up to the end of the beak, and then taper it off up there. And do the same on the other side. On the other bird actually, not the other side. Okay. That's taking down a little bit. Yeah, it does, yeah. There's a good thing about doing it with clay, it's always you know, you can resolve an issue quite easily. It's not the end of the world. There you go, that's better, I think. And then okay, let's pop it here. That's better. So there we go. And then the last touch is just putting a tiny little bit of black clay for the eye. So just sort of like poppy seed sort of size. So I'll just roll it out. So a lot of clay embroidery things is you know, just rolling out little pieces of clay and then changing the shape that they are. But it's well worth it. So you can see how tiny that is. That really is tiny. And then try and get them so they're both the same. So very tiny. And then I'm just going to take one of them, put them in place, and then I'm going to take a bowl tool, and here's the one that I want. There we go. So you just need a small bowl tool. You could use the end of a pencil if you wanted, but this is just what I've used. And then I'm just pushing down into them, so that makes it stick to the clay underneath, plus it gives that little dibby as, you know, a little bit more dimension to the face. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my needle tool just to put a mark in along here, sort of to define the beak a little bit. There we go. And that's it. So all I need to do now is bake these, and then I can show you how to make the earrings. Right, so I've got my bodies baked and ready to sew now. So what we're going to have to do is, before we can start doing the beading, is we're just going to have to cut out some shapes for the backing of them. The reason for this is just that I'm going to be putting some beads all the way around the outside of the peacock for me to be able to do the various bits and pieces that we need to do. So obviously we've got our two peacocks that are facing the opposite way. So just go around the outside of it and then just cut it out. It's easier this way, because when I did my tester pieces, I stuck them straight to the felt and tried cutting around that, and it was a bit more difficult than doing it this way. And then I thought afterwards, I thought, you silly woman, you should have done it, you know, cut them out that way. So I'm telling you now, so don't you try do my mistake. So that's all you need to do. Ooh, I've got my scissors caught in my thread. So it's just some of the stiff felt that you can get from most craft shops. Going on the outside. The most awkward part of cutting it round was underneath the neck piece when I was, when I stuck it down and I did it the other way. So I thought, nah, it needs to be a bit easier doing it this way. So there we go. So got that done. So before actually gluing it down, just sort of put it over and just see whether if there's any bits that you need to take off. I think that's alright now, because we're not needing it to go around on the edge of it. We're sort of just making the beads so that they go right up to the base of the peacock. So then I'm just going to take my E6000, and I'm not putting glue over the entire area. Reason being is because we need to move the bits of felt around the outside just while we're doing our bit of beading. So I'm just putting a little bit down the centre, and then once I've done the beading parts I will go and stick down the edges. This is just so that it keeps it in place a little bit better, but then because if you put this right up to the edges, trying to get your needle through once it's dry is nigh on impossible. So you're best off just putting it down the middle and then filling in around the edges once you've done your beading parts. Okay, so you just want to get some, well, these are just some really tiny dark blue beads, and then these ones are sort of like a pale brown. It's the nearest where I got to the colour of my peacock. And then I've got 9 of my little feather beads. Just zoom in a little bit better so you can see more now. And then I've just got some beading thread, and I've got it in the same colour, well, as near as the same colour as the felt as I could get, and I've took a fairly long piece of it just so that I'm not having to fasten on and come off loads of times with different pieces of thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting my needle in from the top through to the bottom. Just come through just a few millimetres from the edge. This is just so that I can stick the knot that's at the end of my thread just down the back, and then when we glue it it'll be stuck round there. So then come back up so you're at the top side of the felt, so you're in between the felt and the peacock that we've made. So and I found an easier way to actually show this on camera now for doing the edging. I'll show you. So all the way around this part we're going to do the blue, and then just around the bottom part we're going to do the brown. So you just want to take one of your seed beads. These are really, really tiny ones. These are just the ones that I've got that were in the right colour. Don't matter if they're slightly bigger. It's just so that we've got some beads to hang the tail off and the headpiece. So come over the top of that, and I've got my bead. Bring it over, and then I'm just going to go from the front, well, the back of the felt through there, so it's in between again. Pull that through, and then once you've just keep tucking your knot down, and then once you've got that through there, you just want to put your needle in from this angle, so you're going up through it. That will stand the bead on the end. Okay. And then as you can see, it stands up going along there. It'll look better once there's a few more going on, but I'll just show you that again. Tucking them in. Don't want to get caught. This thing when you're first starting out is your thread can be rather long, but it's better than having to keep putting knots on. So I'm just going to come from the side again. So I've got the felt facing me, up through. Okay, so I'm not going down from this way, I'm coming at the other end. I'm just going to go up and around. Oop. And try not to strangle your peacock with your thread. So we just need to do that going all the way around, and then once we've got around here, and then you've got to the brown part, you're just doing exactly the same thing, just with your brown or beige beads, whatever colour you want to use with it. The only part that I'd say that might be a little bit more tricky is just around the neck, but just take your time with it, and when you're pulling it through, when you're pulling your bead tight at the end after each one, it will pull it in towards the neck, so don't think that you're going to break your peacock or anything like that. Just take your time and you know, just keep your thread nice and taut and your beads in the right direction, and you should be absolutely fine. So I'm going to go around this and then I'll come back. Right, so I've got all the way back round now, and as you can see I've done the sort of pale brown colour just around the bottom half of the body. And just to connect it up, we just need to come from the last one that we've put on from the outside, get through, and just come through the back. Now it's your choice whether if you want to do the head or you want to do the tail end first. I'm going to do the tail. So what we need to do is need to work our way back round to this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zigzag through all the beads that we've put round. I'll throw these bigger ones, might be a little bit easier. As you can see, I've not stuck it down around the edges yet. I'm going to do that once I've got all the pieces on. Right, okay, so I've got round here now, and I'm sort of at the top end of the tail, so we're going to start putting in our feathers now. So as I said, you want to want 9 of the little beads that I've showed you how to make in a previous video, and we're going to use some of these little green and gold seed beads. I'm going to do 5 long strands and 4 shorter strands. So for each of the strands I'm going to use 20 of these little seed beads. Not sure what size these ones are, I've had them that long, I can't remember what they are. So 5, 6, 7, they're very tight, not as small as the dark blue ones. I've got my 20, and then we're just going to take one of our feathers, and we're just going to go through the pointed end to start with, because at the end of the peacock, when it stands up, it needs to be that way around. So if you imagine how it would be on a real peacock. Okay, I'm just going to get one more seed bead, and then we're going to turn back on ourselves through the feather bead. And you can just pull that in. You don't want it to be too tight, you want it to be nice and loose, just so that you get that flow like you get with feathers, and then just come all the way back up through those two. There we go, so we've got our one, and then we're just going to move over to the next bead down, and we're going to repeat that. So we want to do 5 of those all together, so I'm going to repeat it 4 more times, and then once I've done that I'll come back and show you where we're going to put the shorter ones. Right, so I've got the 5 longer ones done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in between these and just put like sort of the half length, so it'll be 10 beads instead. So rather than going through the seed bead that we've just gone through for the longer ones, just push through your felt and to the bit that's not glued down. Just come up from there and it's just exactly the same, but just using 10 seed beads. Now if you haven't got seed beads that are this small and you've got some that are a bit bigger, just have a play around, you know, just so, and figure out how long you want them to be, or even if you have got this size and you don't want the fringe to be this long, that's totally up to you. 8, 9, 10. And just like before, without throwing your bead away like I've just done. Okay, stop a bead and come back up. And come back up through the felt. This will just lock it into place, and then when we glue down the edges it will secure it off. So just pull that through. Oh, I haven't got tangled now. The only problem with the tail part is getting a little bit tangled sometimes. So there we go, and it's up. So then once we've gone all the way through, we're going to have them at different levels and it'll be all nice full tail. So I'll go and finish the other ones and then I'll come back. So the tail's finished, so now you can see they're at different lengths. It just gives it that more fuller look. And the next bit is just to put the hook in the top and to give it some of its head feathers that they have. So I'll get my cotton out from the tail. So you're just going to want to work your way up again, so you can either sort of just push through the felt, because you've got that loose bit around the edge that we haven't stuck down yet. And try not to get it stuck in the other beads that are already there. You don't want that. Yeah, last one hopefully. Right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to put in my thread protector. So I'm going to come up probably sort of on the curve of the head. I'm going to come up through the felt. I'm not putting the thread protector directly on the beads, at least I think I didn't. No, I didn't. I was just double checking on my practice pair. So just got a bit of felt, bit of thread, sort of like on the curved part of the head. And let's take your thread protector. Put one side. Come down the other one. And just go through the felt a little bit. Just make sure your thread's on the top of it, and then you just need to go through that a few times just to reinforce the connection for it. And this is what we'll attach the earring hook to once we've finished. I usually go through about 3 or 4 times when I do it. It's just to make sure that it's well stuck in there. So one more. Go. So I'm going to come back through the felt now, and I'm just going to come up through one of the little beads in front of it. Yeah, so I'm just about there. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's sort of just to the front of it. And then I'm just going to take some of these little tiny bugle beads, depending on what if you've not got bugle beads, just use some tiny seed beads and just make it so that it's tall enough for it to be one of the head feathers. So I'm taking 3 of these, and then I'm going to take one of these blue seed beads, and then I'm going to come back down, going back through the blue bead, else it will just come off, and then back down the 3 bugle beads, and back through the seed bead that we came through. And when you pull it tight, it will stand up. It gets more firmer once you've put the other ones in, but they're basically just to sort of hide the way that we've got the earring hook, plus what they actually do have on their head. So it's just to give them that sort of more realistic look, and it hides your workings. So I'll come back up through another one, further over. I've been putting 4 in, but you could put more than that in if you wanted to. So another 3. One down. And back through. So each time you put one in, you just want to move over to the next bead, or you could do it sort of in the middle of them, but just come straight through the felt if you didn't want to come through the seed beads. So that's what they're looking like. So I'm going to go off camera and do the other ones, because it'll get a bit tedious you watching me do those, and I'll do the other earring as well, and I'll come back once they're done. Right, so I've got the head feathers finished, so now we're just going to need to tie off. So you just want to get through a few fibres of the felt and just create a few knots. There you go. And then finally I'm just going to push back through to the part that's not stuck down yet. I'm going to snip it off. My scissors want to work. There we go. And then this is when I'm going to stick down at the outside of the peacock. So I'm sticking my A6000 again, and then I'm going to take, just to do a little bit on the top first, so that will seal in those little knots and where we've put all the stitches and everything. Just hold it in, and then you want to just come round and stick down any part of it that's not stuck down, and that way it'll be nice and rigid. The only thing I find with these 6000s is it smells, so if you're sensitive to solvents, I'd be careful with it. I'll just make sure you've got an open window. I've got the door open, so I've got some breeze coming in. Yeah. Doesn't take too long to dry. It's handy having one of these ones with the finer nozzle on it, so you can get it down into the bits where it's not stuck. Just this little bit here then. So it's just a case of waiting for that to dry now. And then the last step is just to put on the earring hook. So I just want to take your earring hook, and then if yours are like mine, this little springy sort of looking back and the balls loose. Just hold them out of the way of the little hook and just take some round nose pliers, just open up a little hook part there. There we go. And then you want your peacock to be facing down and you want the hook to be facing upwards, and then you just pop it through your thread protector. Then we're going to close that back up. So hold the other pieces out, and the fly's just come in, so if you can hear a fly buzzing around, I do apologise. There we go, and that keeps it in. And we've got our lovely peacock earring. So while I've been doing the off-camera bits, I've finished the second earring. So we've got a lovely pair here now of some lovely peacocks, and I've also got the test pair that I did. Oop. Just these ones, and these ones I used the other beads that I showed you how to make with the. Oop! Not gonna drop. Tell you, my twitchy hands are not much fun. So these ones have just got the holes on the point, and when I've been threading those ones on, obviously you can't go through them like we've done on the ones I've just shown you just now. So what I've done is I've chained so many down here, threaded on, sorry, come off, so many down here, then I've gone through the slice and then come back up the other way, and then to put the shorter ones in, I've come back down the other leg, you know, like sort of the first side of that one, come down halfway, put on another one of the cane slices, and then added the same amount that we've just gone down that leg, so it creates an extra piece, so you've got that more fuller look. So it's up to you whether which ones you want to use. You might have a preferred favourite and find one you know, more appealing than the other one, but you don't just have to keep them in the traditional peacock colours. I've done some really funky ones, so I'll move these out of the way. Now these have been of great amusement to my husband and my friend. Before they had the tails and the head parts put on, it just basically looked like a flamingo in a woolly jumper. So if you didn't want to put the tails on, it could look like a flamingo in a woolly jumper. But I just wanted to do it in some really bright, fun colours, just to show you don't have to do them in the traditional peacock colours. You can do them in whatever colourway you want them to do. And I just made a separate cane with different colours that would match with the body, you know, and then you can make as many as you want. You don't have to make massive canes, just make small ones so you've got enough for what you want in. And then that's it, really. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and it's inspired you to have a go at making your own peacock earrings. I'm trying to zoom out so you can get them all in, and hopefully you don't drop your beads like what I do, because I've done that a few times while I've been doing them off camera. And if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. And if you've liked the video, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed, consider subscribing, that'd be appreciated too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.